puzzlers, and other curious people. We are here for math crafts and projects, and today we are going to draw some fractal-based trees. And if you've never done that before, that is okay. It's a whole lot easier than it sounds. Just as an update, as you might know, we're based in Southeast Texas, specifically in Lufkin. We are far enough inland that we don't seem to be in any danger from the hurricane. If you have a charity you'd like to donate to, definitely please do so. They're going to need some help with the rebuilding. We are taking evacuees around here also, so I will try and keep folks posted as any developments happen local to here. We have gotten a bit of rain out of it, but it's just soggy, nothing particularly bad. So, okay, switching over to the drawing board. So, drawing a tree with fractals. Well, let's think about drawing a tree in general. So you're probably used to doing something like this, right? Little easy tree. Okay, and that's fair. You can definitely tell that it's meant for a tree because it's got all that leafy stuff up there. It's got a trunk, and that can be a perfectly reasonable way to deal with trees. But you know, trees aren't just a stick with a blob. They've got structure, they've got branches, they've got things that we can analyze mathematically. So I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to say, okay, let's think about what trees have. Well, they have a trunk. So I'm going to use a fairly large pen size, and then I'm going to draw a squiggle. It doesn't look like much anything in particular, does it? But now I'm going to shrink my pen size down, and I'm going to pick another spot. And by the way, if you're using a regular pen or pencil or crayon to do this, you can just go back and forth a few times, following along kind of the same line to make this happen. Okay, now what I did here is I started at a spot, went up, and then swooped over, and then back over further, and then sort of back in. Okay, so I'm going to try to do pretty much that again. And it doesn't have to be perfect because nature has some variation, but now I've got a branch coming off that tree in the middle. Okay, well now I can shrink my pen size down again, and I can say, okay, well that was kind of about halfway up, so what if I come about halfway up here and do more or less the same thing again, but also halfway here. Oh, that one didn't work right. Let's see. More or less the same thing again. This is starting to look like a tree. Shrink the pen if you're using a graphics device, or just either, again, fill in your first lines more boldly, your following lines more lightly. I'm going to scoot this down a bit because it looks like it's growing, which is normal. Trees grow. Okay, so I'm going to say, okay, well, let's think about some smaller branches now, such as one here. There could be a small one here. That looks very different from the rest. So a fractal is a shape that is that is very much the same shape, but at different scales. So what we're doing here is using different sizes of this first line, approximately. We're not worried, like I said, we're not worrying about whether it's perfect because variation is normal as part of nature. But we're using that idea of shrinking similarity to mimic what nature does in making trees. We try to get them to about the same place, but again, it doesn't have to be perfect. We're not trying to be exact here. It doesn't have to be exact. We're just showing this idea that it keeps repeating at smaller scales. Okay, I think we've gone pretty far with this. I mean, we could do a couple more steps. But if you want it to look more like a tree, well, you might need some leaves. So I'm going to put the pen back up to that size, and I'm just going to come around and put, whoops, not a line, just little green dots representing leaves around the end of each branch. Some of those end areas overlap, some do not. Either is okay. Now you might notice that really that first line we made, well, really a curve more than a line, mathematically speaking, but really that first curve we drew, the first stroke we made with our drawing tool, determined most things about how this tree would turn out. I think that looks enough like a tree. If you want to, you can come up with some kind of formula for where you put, oh, I missed one, for where you put the leaves also. Okay, I know it's simple, I know it's just a little doodle, but I like it. So, in fact, I'm going to make sure that I don't clear that by accident. I'm just going to export it as an image real quick. Okay, it's saved. And I might do that again, but I definitely don't want to lose my project. Okay. Well, I noticed that this tree kind of all grew in the one direction. Well, what if we have a tree that grows in two directions? So let's think about how that might happen. So I think I want there to be two curves in it to help me find places that a new branch would grow from. So I might say, okay, what if it comes up and then curves over and then curves over like that, and here are where a new branch might grow from. Now that branch would go out and then a little bit this way and a little bit that way and come back to about in a straight line with that. So let's see. Out to its left, to its right, back to a line. Out to its left, to its right, back to a line. Let's see what this looks like after a few more iterations. Complicated sounding word just means steps in a fractal process. Okay, so now I've got a branching point here, and that end just kind of stops. I wonder what's going to happen with that. Let's see. So let's see, out to its left, to its right, back to a line. That one didn't curve nicely. I'm gonna redo that. Out to its left, to its right, back to a line. Okay, good enough. Out to its left, that's hard because it's our right. To its right, same problem, back to a line. And I noticed that that one kind of twisted a little bit, but I also noticed that it's getting close to the ground, so maybe there was some pressure applied by something, so that's okay. Out to its left, to its right, back to a line. Out to its left, which is our right, to its right, which is our left, back to a line. That looks like a zigzag. I'm going to fix it. Out to its left, to its right, back to a line. Looks less zigzaggy. I notice the ones that are pointed down are doing that. I need to think about if that's realistic. I still kind of want to do something off the end here. What if I put another one at the end? Out to its left, to its right, back to the line. I like that, but now I need to go around and do all of them that way. Good thing that's not hard. Okay, that's a new one, that's a new one, that's not. Out, to its left, to its right, back to the line. Out, to its left, to its right, back to the line. That's a new one. That's not, and I need a little more space. That's okay. It's one advantage of doing these on a computer. It's easy to change what you're doing with them, but you can do them just on paper or a regular whiteboard also. Let's see. Out, to its left, to its right, back to a line. I think that's really good, actually, to use the end as a connection side also, because it shows that shrinking effect uh, that might happen further up on the trunk of the tree. It becomes more like a branch. So I like it. Let's go with it. But if you don't like it, you can handle it differently. That's the thing about art. Okay, let's see. Out, to its left, to its right, back to the line. And then out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, to its left, to its right, back to the line. Out, to its left, to its right, back to the... That looks too zigzaggy. Out, curve to its left, curve to its right, back to the line. That looks more natural. A little wobble is okay. Nature sometimes wobbles. Okay, now this is a little tricky. Wait a minute. There are some branch growth sites here that didn't get used in the last stage. Good thing that's easy to fix. Let's see, here's, okay. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. And I see we're intersecting with another, but you know, trees are three-dimensional, so maybe this is actually behind it or in front of it. We'll decide that later. Okay, now where was I? Come to think of it, I think that was supposed to be one step bigger than it was, so that's okay. I'll just trace over it. Okay, now let's see. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, whoops, that's its right. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right. Pick up where I left off there, back to the line. Oh, and I need to do the ends. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Out, its left, its right, back to the line. Now you can see how this is going to be hard to do the next stage of, so I think we've found a stopping point after this stage. So what we're running into here is when you're working with fractals, you end up needing to decide how many iterations to do, because the thing about fractals is they're infinite, and the thing about what we're doing here is we don't want to keep doing it forever. So we have to manage that by just making a choice. Whoops, that was too soon. Out, it's left, it's right, back to the line. Okay, now, of course, it seems to me like some things happened here that aren't physically realistic, because certainly the ground would be back here somewhere. So I'm going to say, okay, this would have gotten trimmed in the course of things. And I'm going to zoom out so I can see all of what I'm doing. And now I'm just going to come around with the leaves. Now, if you want to make it look more like fall, you can use different colors. So for example, you can use brown. Not lines, individual leaf dots. And again, just putting them clustered around the ends. It's hard to see exactly where the ends are through here, but we're just doing the best we can. And remember, there's not an actual tree we're trying to draw here, we're making it up. So if your decisions are different from mine, that's okay. We're inventing a thing here. That just means we try things. Now, I'm trying to get one, I'm trying to put a dot either on or next to the end there to sort of camouflage the way it just stops at the end because of how the pen tool is. But again, if you don't want to do it that way, if you think that having it just stop works for what you're trying to do creatively, that's fine. Now I tried brown leaves because I was thinking about a fall tree, but of course trees in fall are colors other than brown. There can be some red leaves. And I'm not trying to go like specifically right over any particular spot with this. I'm just trying to get some more dots into the clusters. Sometimes they're between, sometimes they're a little further out. It's all a little bit random, but if you want to make some kind of formula or geometry rule about where you put them, that's okay too. These look like they're floating unconnected to anything. I'm going to see if I can take that. Yeah, that looks a little more tightly clustered. Okay, and of course trees in brown could also be yellow, or sorry, trees in fall aren't just red and brown, they could also be yellow. Okay. So we're kind of using these leaves to fill in that big sort of cloud shape that we had put on the top of the other tree, but we're having sort of thicker and thinner spots of it. Okay, now I know. Oh, I missed a cluster. Whoops. Yeah, I like drawing in a computer because I can fix things easily, but it makes its own kinds of mistakes. Okay, now I notice we've got some yellow spots on top of orange spots, yellow spots on top of brown spots, orange spots on top of brown spots. I'm just going to put in a few more brown spots, just one or two in each cluster, just so that it doesn't look like brown is always getting covered up. Oh, whoops, I didn't even notice at the time that I had left a yellow line in there. Oh, and there's a brown line now. Okay, I think that looks all right. So I like this one really well too, so I'm going to save my board again. And it's thinking about that. Okay. So as far as different things you can do with this, well, any place you would decoratively use a picture of a tree, you can use this. So such as on a wall hanging, or in making greeting cards, um, to decorate a notebook. Now you could also, instead of the leaves being dots that you just color on, you could use small pieces of something. Maybe you could cut leaves out of paper and glue them on, or if you really have some time and you like to do embroidery, you could use some chalk on paper to draw on the paths of the trunk and the branches. And then after you do that, the next thing you could do might be putting on some French knots for the leaves, or sewing the leaves in some other way. Maybe you could use beads. There are a lot of things you could do this way. And once you've made it out of fabric, you can use that for anything you would use something made out of fabric for, like put it on a shirt or a jacket or make a bag out of it. Okay, so those are my two examples. I hope some of your examples are really different from mine, because people should have the opportunity to make their own decisions. If you want to make one that's like mine, that's okay too, but try out different things. That's the main thing. There should always be different things you can try out and see what happens. Uh, if you make several of these, you could zoom way out and put different ones together and make a whole forest out of them, and that could be amazing. If you make it in some program where you can zoom back in and see all the details, and then zoom out and see the whole forest, that could be really beautiful. And I'm hoping that people will have some incredibly creative examples of things to do with fractal trees to share out in the gallery. Okay, so it's just about time to wrap up. I just want to show one other thing though. Now I know it's too soon to start shopping for this, definitely, but if any of you are thinking about making some things for Christmas, you might want to know a way you could use shapes sort of similar to this to make Christmas cards. So here's one way. First of all, you just start out with a trunk. Now the next thing you can do is draw a triangle on it. Well, that doesn't look too different from things that you've seen before, right? Well, about a quarter of the way up, you can come out, but not as far, with two lines. Make a smaller triangle, like so. So it's just a little smaller. And again, about a quarter of the way up, come out, and repeat that. Out, repeat, and so on to whatever height of tree you would like to have, or at least however far up you want it to have those little bits sticking out. And there are other ways also, and as we get more into the season where people are thinking about holiday crafts, we can talk more about that. But this is just one option. It can look particularly more like a pine tree if you go ahead and fill in like so. Not that far. So one thing you might actually want to do is leave off those horizontal lines on the bottom of the triangle. Like I said, I'll just give you that idea to experiment with if you want to try to do any designing for yourself while there's still time to get it printed out, make it up, whatever you want to do with it. Uh, so, so I hope this has shown an example of a way that math can be part of something beautiful and can be a lot of fun to do, and can also be a really good way to look for patterns out there in the world. Another thing someone might want to do is find an actual plant and see if they can find what shape they could start with to get as close to that actual plant as possible. So it's just about time for us to wrap up. I just want to remind you, we are doing elementary problem of the week after this at the top of the hour. And after that, I will be over at Taco Bueno for Tacos and Tangents. And if you want to bring any drawing supplies over there, I'm sure they won't mind. People write there all the time. It's all the same to them, I would think. So if you want to do tacos and tangents and fractals, that'd be quite all right. This is Avrila with Math with Avrila, and I will see you in a while.